What's up, guys? So it's officially the holiday season. I thought I'd get festive. You guys got the tree, got the Santa thing going. I know. It's only Thanksgiving, but it's the holiday season, right? I get into this stuff. So anyway, just providing a little ambiance, a little atmosphere for you guys in this holiday version 2018 of Montero Unboxing. Ask Me Anything. Got a bunch of questions. Let's start going through them. Steven Tabarez asked, has Leo Santa Cruz become irrelevant as a top pound-for-pound prospect and devalued himself by blatantly going back on his word for fighting a Frampton trilogy in Belfast? Is it also a case of carefully picking opponents? So I think you didn't mean prospect. You must have meant, well, pound-for-pound prospect. I get what you're saying. Yeah, look, Leo Santa Cruz, you got to give him credit for the 2 fights with Frampton. You got to give him credit for winning the rematch. But he's been extremely frustrating because for years, there have been plenty of big fights for him at his division. He's fought a couple different weights. Now he's at 126. I want to see the 3rd fight with Frampton. And look, Frampton didn't have to give him the rematch, but they kind of had a gentleman's agreement where it's like, hey, regardless of what happens in the rematch, I'll fight you a 3rd time. And then Leo kind of went back on his word. He's got a fight coming up against a hand-picked opponent on Fox early next year. He should be fighting Gary Russell Jr. But this is the way Al Heyman and PBC have been doing business for a while. And Santa Cruz has made it very, very clear that he's fine waiting out the big fights. And, it's up to the fans to say something about it. We'll see what happens. Ty Legacy asks, wondering if you think Canelo should be given somewhat credit for his next fight. Of course, it's at 168 pounds coming up December 15th. It is a step up in weight that requires acclimation due to it being in a higher division. Look, Canelo, Rocky Fielding is not even, I don't even think, in the top 10 at 168. So I'm not going to give him that much credit. He's also fought at 68 before against Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. However, Canelo deserves what I consider to be a softer touch. Sometimes weight matters, guys, and sometimes skills and class matter. In this case, I don't put that much on the weight because, again, I just don't, it's nothing against Fielding. He's just not a top-tier fighter at 168 pounds. So I give Canelo a pass, and I understand why he's taking this fight. He's had 2 tough fights with Gennady Golovkin, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the world. And regardless of how you feel about those fights, 2 tough fights, 24 tough rounds, he deserves a bit of a layup. And this is his first time, fighting in New York in that market, trying to brand himself, his new deal with DAZN. They're trying to promote to a UK audience, obviously. So, that plays a factor in this matchmaking. I get it. All right. So people need to lay off Canelo and give him a break, in my opinion, in this fight. But does it do anything? Does the title mean anything? Hell no, it just doesn't. Jordan Walker asked, who do you currently rate as your top 10 heavyweights and in what order? Top 10 heavyweights. Right now you got, AJ, Deontay. Let's put Fury at number 3 if he's anywhere near the level he was before. Ortiz, White, Povetkin, if he's still around. I think he's still serviceable. Parker, Big Baby Miller. The Polish fighter, Kovnachi. I always butcher his name. And I think Pulev. I think right there's your top 10. The order, I don't really know about. After the top 3, it gets fuzzy, right? So I don't quite know after the top 3, but that's my top 10. Devin Cruz asks, who do you think is the most exciting prospect in boxing currently? Teofimo Lopez, hands down. Teofimo Lopez is my 2018 prospect of the year. And you guys know I'm on the Ring Ratings Committee, and I contribute to Ring Magazine, and we were just discussing over the last weekend our candidates for year-end awards, because we'll be putting that together in an issue coming out soon. So that is the name that I gave for Prospect of the Year, Teofimo Lopez, and to me it's not even close. Have I ever taken the Myers-Briggs personality test? Yes, I've taken a bunch of those personality tests, and for the most part, when I take any political or personality test, it's interesting. I come out moderate. I really, really do, in just about every category. Very, very in the middle. So with that personality test, there's like two sides, right? And then they give you a percentage. You know, how much to this side are you versus this side? I'm generally somewhere in the 50s percentile to 40, 40s to 50s, and or 60s, you know, right in there. But I think I'm an ENTJ-A. And if you know what that personality test is, you'll understand that. I know extrovert is one, aggressive or something, assertive I think is one. That's me. Louis Sam asks, who are your top 5 Mexican fighters of all time? Well, of course, Chavez is the GOAT, right? But in no particular order after that, Salvador Sanchez, Ruben Alvarez, Carlos Zarate, Ricardo Lopez, and then, so that's your top 5, but you can kind of have like a tie. And I think Eric Morales and Marco Antonio Barrera are right there. Right there. And to me, Juan Manuel Marquez falls just short of those two. You know, those are the great 3 Mexican fighters of the last era. Marquez had the greatest longevity. But to me, you know, I like Barrera just a little bit more than Morales, and Morales just a little bit more than Marquez. So they kind of get right in at the end of that list. But again, no particular order there. You can kind of flip-flop all those names. Let's see here. Rex Righteous asks, I'm getting sick of all these different platforms that boxing's on. He's talking about all the platforms kind of being used as an excuse not to make big fights. And he was asking, will boxing ever have one platform like UFC? I've done videos on this before, man. Go back and research my channel. Go back and search. But no. The main difference between MMA and boxing is a global sport. Now, I get it, MMA fans. There are fighters from all over the place in MMA, but it is nowhere near as big as boxing is on a global scale. And it's not even close. I mean, it's so different. So you absolutely cannot consolidate boxing, even, let's just say American boxing, into one platform. It's impossible. There's too many fighters. Go to BoxRec. Look up pound for pound ratings on BoxRec. Active fighters, pound for pound ratings, okay? And go back as many pages as you can. You guys know at the end of the page you can skip forward, right? Because I think they list maybe 50 fighters on a page. Go back to the last page. You'll see, I believe there are tens of thousands of active, licensed professional boxers right now. And that's just the pros. Then you take into consideration the amateurs. There's no way you can consolidate that into one place like UFC has. Can't do it. Absolutely cannot do it. So whether you like it or not, we're going to have multiple sanctioning organizations. We're going to have multiple promoters on different platforms. You guys, the fans, you speak with your wallet and you speak with your ratings. Don't buy these damn pay-per-views if they're keeping it all in-house and you're pissed off and you want to see the big fights. You want to see them working across the aisle. Fight back with your wallet. And on social media. Blow these guys up. Eddie Hearn, PBC, Bob Arum, Top Rank, Golden Boy, they're all on Twitter. They're all on Facebook. They're all on Instagram. Just annoy the shit out of them. They'll get it eventually. Nino Gadji asks, do you think we were ever going to get a Mikey Garcia versus Lomachenko fight and or Spence versus Crawford? If we do get those fights, will they be watered down similar to Pacquiao and Floyd? Because obviously that was way past its due date. You know, I'm starting to bet against Garcia and Lomachenko. I guess it depends on how Mikey does against Spence. I don't understand it because a fight with Lomachenko probably brings Garcia more money. I think it's a more marketable fight and it gets him more money because I think Bob Arum would want to control that promotion. Thus, he would pay more money to Garcia to bring him over. Of course, it'd be a co-promotion with PBC. But just like you kind of saw with Hooker Saucedo, where Hooker now fights for DAZN, but the way that deal worked out, since Top Rank put up the more money than Matchroom did, and Rock Nation's involved in that too, they brought that to OKC, and Hooker got a huge paycheck, more than he would have got if that fight was in Dallas on DAZN. So sometimes, you know, dollars and cents wise, that's usually where fighters go, right? Because this is prize fighting. But for Garcia, he's fighting Spence. Look, if he beats Spence, I'm just saying, I know you don't punch your TV screen right now, but if somehow Garcia were to beat Spence, then he looks like a genius, and we all look like idiots who couldn't see this coming. If he gets absolutely destroyed by Spence and then comes crawling back to Lomachenko, it might be a situation like when Lomachenko fought Guillermo Rigondeaux, where Rigondeaux screwed up so many possible opportunities, he kind of had to come crawling to Loma, and he got embarrassed. And that's what we might see with Garcia. As far as Spence and Crawford, that is this generation's version of Leonard and Hearns. It really, truly is. Multiple parallels between those two fights. Will it eventually happen? I hope so, but it might not be till 2021, guys. And that's just the reality. And I'm going to put the lion's share of the blame on that on Spence and PBC. Not even Spence, but on Al Heyman and PBC because of how they do business. Although Bob Arum does deserve some of the credit for that not taking place right now as well. Okay? Let's see. Tom asked, do you think Fury's physical condition will be a problem in the fight with Wilder? We'll see. You know, one thing that Fury did that I thought was smart, he started camp up in Big Bear with that increased elevation and kind of had his fat camp there. And then he went back down to LA and he's working at Wild Card right now with Freddie. I like that move. I don't like extended high altitude training. I think it's bad for you. And there's a lot of science that backs that up. Victor Conti's been very vocal about that. And he thinks it's ruining Gennady Golovkin. So I think Fury's taking this seriously. I think we're going to expect the best version of him mentally and emotionally and physically. My thing is, will he be as sharp as he was a couple years ago? Because I know he's had a couple of fights. He hasn't been as active as Wilder. He just hasn't been. And I think that's going to be an issue in the late rounds of the fight. And that's why I like Wilder by late TKO in that fight. Liquid Crack. That's a good name. Asks, do you think you overreact? Do I think I overreact sometimes when it comes to scores? Yes. Yes, I do. Look, I'm a human being like anybody else. You know, Liquid Crack mentions particularly the Usyk-Bellew fight. Look, did I overreact a little bit about the scoring? Yes. Yes. Going back and looking at the first 6 rounds of that fight, I could see how you could give Bellew 3. I absolutely cannot see how you give him 4. But to me, after 7 rounds, Usyk was ahead. Whether you had it 4-3 like many of you did, watching it live, I had it 5-2. You know, you'd have to be giving Bellew every benefit of every doubt to have him ahead 4-3 after 7. And you'd have to be scoring on a curve, grading on a curve, thinking, wow, Bellew's doing better than I expected in scoring that way, in my opinion, to have him ahead. However, having him ahead 4-3 at that time, we've seen far worse scorecards in recent times, far worse. So did I overreact a little bit, calling for, I think Steve Gray was the judge who had Bellew slightly ahead, calling for a suspension? Yeah, that was an overreaction. I do think the Mexican judge who had it, I think 5-2 Bellew, I think that's a disgusting, horrible scorecard. And I've actually looked at some of his other recent scorecards. He did a fight, I can't remember which fight it was recently, where his score was off. It might have been when Spence fought Brook. And I can't remember his exact score, but it was in line with Adelaide Byrd. Because I think Adelaide Byrd was a judge for that fight. So right there you go, okay? He's a judge that I'm nervous about. What's the advantage and disadvantage comparing boxing's model to the UFC? You can't compare it. There are some parallels, obviously, because it's martial arts, whether it's UFC or it's boxing. And the way it's packaged and promoted, there are parallels. But it's so different, and the structure is different. You know, in boxing, the fighter gets 75% of the money. The promoter gets 25%. In cases like Canelo Alvarez, he gets more than 75%, you know, if you're a superstar. In the UFC, those fighters get absolutely ass-raped by the organization. And so that benefits you guys as fans because the organization can say, you two fight or you're kicked off. I'm cutting you from your deal. That's cool, but the fighters are getting screwed because they're not getting paid. In boxing, yes, the fans don't always get the fights they want when they want it, but the athletes get paid way more. So in some ways, UFC's rise in popularity has helped boxing because boxing's had to react and they've had to improve the way they promote their product and bring it to the 21st century. And I do credit Floyd Mayweather with a lot of that. But in some ways, they're just so different, you can't make the comparison. And when casual fans and casual mainstream sports media do that, it pisses me off because they should know better. It's comparing apples to oranges sometimes. Hal Dan Gore asks, Fury versus Wilder, Mikey versus Spence, Pacquiao versus Broner, who's your favorite and why? So Wilder, late TKO, Spence, late TKO or decision win, and I'm going to say Pacquiao decision over Broner right now. Those picks might change as we get closer to fight night, but that's my gut feel. Faint Cantu asks, you vote for Kemp? LOL, just joking. I don't know who Kemp is, but if you're referring to the midterm elections, I didn't vote. Guys, I'm not big on voting. I think our system's really broken, and I know I get lectured on that time and time again. My thing is, I'm given two choices in our system, and generally speaking, it's a pile of shit over here and a pile of shit over there, and depending on how you side on some, honestly, in the big scheme of things, meaningless social issue, that's how most people vote. They ignore the totality of the other issues, but, you know, do you like abortion? Do you hate abortion? I'm going to vote based on that. How about you keep that shit personal to yourself and vote on the economy and things like that? Well, most Americans don't. Our political process is so busted right now. So anyway, I could do an hour-long rant video on that. I did not vote in the midterm elections. JT asks, got any life advice for us people or any advice for people doing boxing? Whoa, life advice, shit. It's a whole lot. I'll say this, life advice for you young guys, okay? So I'm 39. I turn 40 next June. For whatever reason, as a man approaches 40, your I don't want to say vulnerabilities, your mortality, your morality, all that stuff starts to really, really come into play. You start thinking about things. You start looking back at, you know, the 20s and maybe even your early 30s and thinking about things you could have did differently. Not that I regret anything. I don't have any regrets. But I look back at the 20s, my 20s, and I think, man, there was some wasted years there. I spent a lot of time doing stupid shit or just wasting time where I could have been working and hustling. And in my mid to late 30s, I've just been working and hustling nonstop and making up a lot of ground for the disadvantaged place I started in this world. And doing a lot of self-analyzation and trying to figure out how and why I got to where I was, you know, which is good. You should do that, reflection and all that. But guys, you don't get the years back. Once it's gone, it's gone. There's no such thing as time travel, okay? I don't give a shit what Back to the Future taught you. You can't go back. So my advice, if there's something you want to try, if there's something you want to learn, it might be as stupid as learning how to play guitar or learning how to box, or maybe you've never done an amateur fight and you want to do a tournament or something. Man, do it. Do it now. To quote Arnold Schwarzenegger in Predator, do it now. Come on, do it. I'm here. Come on, do it. Do it. You don't get the years back, okay? You got plenty of time to smoke dope, drink beer, get laid, that kind of shit. You're going to do that for the rest of your life if that's what you're into. You got plenty of time to play video games and watch movies and sit your ass on the couch. If there's something you want to try, you want to learn how to play the drums, you want to learn how to speak German, you want to visit Japan, do it. Do it now. That's my life advice. John Doe, who are your top 5 favorite fighters ever? So John, I imagine you're talking pound for pound, like who I rate top 5 pound for pound ever, or are you talking favorite as far as who I personally like? I'm going to go pound for pound right now. And look, this is a tough thing off the top of my head, but, you know, Robinson, Pep, Greb, Armstrong, and number 5, I'm going to say the Leonards. Benny Leonard, Ray Leonard. That's where I'm going to go my top 5 right now, pound for pound. Now, yeah, there's maybe a name or two you could switch in and out of that. But those guys, just among the greatest ever. And I really think that Pep, Guillermo Papaleo, his real name, was the finest defensive technician and the best featherweight ever. Jonathan Fox, thoughts on the career of Mike Alvarado and Clyde Drexler? Wow, that's like two totally different places. Mike Alvarado, you know, ruined some potential there when he had some momentum with drug addiction issues, party, poor lifestyle outside the ring. I'm glad he seems to have cleaned himself up, got back in there, doing some good stuff. You know, made some money, grabbed the title, was in a fight of the year. So good for him. You know, that's a good all-around career. It's better than most guys have, right? Hopefully he's smart with this last little run late in his career, and he makes some money and saves that money and stays clean. I wish him well. Clyde Drexler, man, what can you say? You know, arguably one of the best 50 NBA players ever. Won at every level. You know, he was great in college with the Phi Slamma Jamma and all that. And then in the NBA, you know, it's unfortunate that the Trailblazers never got a title. My Pistons beat them. Ha! But, you know, that year where they played the Bulls and the Bulls beat them, they should have beat Chicago that year. They just, you know, mentally kind of folded. Not the smartest team. But he eventually got those titles with Houston when he went back to Houston as a pro with the Rockets, with Hakeem Olajuwon and those guys. So, yeah. Is he in the Hall of Fame? If he's not, he should be. Anyway, next, Renee Salcido asks, why is Ron Jeremy such a disgusting and shameless person? Well then, Ron Jeremy, for those of you who don't know, is a porn legend. Did he do something bad? I honestly don't know what you're referring to, man. Maybe that's a joke or a troll. I don't know. Let's see. Akfew asks, most underrated and overrated boxing trainers. Right now, just off the top of my head, most overrated trainer, Virgil Hunter. He's had one pupil, that was Andre Ward. And Andre Ward was just special. Now, he had him since he was a kid, and Ward went on to do great things, first ballot Hall of Famer and all that. But who else has Virgil Hunter taken and made better? And Andre Ward, as a light heavyweight, could you say he was honestly better than he was as a super middleweight? I didn't really see any improvement. So, yeah, Virgil Hunter, most overrated. And most underrated, right now I'm going to go with the Reynosos. What they've done with Canelo Alvarez, he's seriously a top 5 pound-for-pound fighter. He is. And their game plan in the rematch with Golovkin was genius. You got to give it to him. So now they've taken on a couple more fighters. Ryan Garcia, let's see if they can make him better. Oscar Valdez, let's see if they can make him better. If they can make those guys better, you got to give them some credit, man. But right now, I think they're underappreciated. Rockstar 1996 asks, if I was to make a biopic of a fighter, and who would it be, and who would I choose to star as the boxer? So, okay, favorite fighter, Arturo Gatti, right? And there's a tragic, you got everything in that. You got passion, you got crazy, crazy highs, crazy, crazy lows. You got tragedy, you've got mystery. That would be a great movie. And I think Mario Lopez would be perfect as Arturo Gatti. A little bigger than Gatti, but just in terms of features and everything, he looks like he could play Arturo Gatti. Would have to work on his accent and stuff like that. But also, Salamo Arouk, and I'm probably butchering that name, but Salamo Arouk, look up that name, guys. S-A-L-A-M-O, last name A-R-O-U-C-H. I wrote it here on this so I wouldn't forget how to spell it. This was a guy during Nazi Germany. It's a Jewish guy in a concentration camp, forced to box other guys because he was an amateur boxer. Loser dies. And the Nazi guards would gamble and bet on who they thought would win. So this dude had to stay undefeated to live. This guy literally fought for his life. Lived to tell about it. Didn't really have a successful pro career or anything like that. But really a story that needs to be told. In Hollywood, I'm surprised with the Jewish lobby, you know, in Hollywood, why this story hasn't been told. They love making films about Nazi Germany and stuff. Every year we get some sort of film about World War II, Nazi Germany. I don't know why they haven't touched this yet. I think Liev Schreiber would kill that. Why not? Nathan Sterling asks, would you support the creation of a new division between heavyweight and cruiserweight? No, we already have too many divisions. JANCZES10 asks, who are your top 5 heavyweights since, let's say, the 70s? Ali, Foreman, Lennox Lewis, Vladimir Klitschko, Evander Holyfield. Boom, off the top of my head. Nathan Sterling has another question. Do you think Hearn and Matchroom will succeed in the U.S.? You know, I think so, Nathan. I think that he's not going to be nearly as successful as what he's doing over in the UK, obviously. But I do think eventually he's going to do good business over here. And part of that is going to be him bringing some of his UK stars over here. I think he's going to have to do that. But I do think he will be moderately successful here. And if anything, the success that Matchroom has over in the UK will, that income will supplement, you know, what he's doing here in America, where he's probably losing money on cards right now. So I think so. DS Kennels 210 asks, do you have any cool mafia-related stories? Absolutely, my man. Absolutely, but nothing I can say here. Maybe one day if we have a beer at a fight, I could tell you a few. I grew up around some of those guys, and I did some favors and some stuff when I was younger, some criminal-related kind of stuff. Yeah, I got a few stories I can tell you about, but nothing in public, baby. At least not on a video here where it can be used against me.